What's Cooking? You're very welcome to What's Cooking right here on CitiTv. My name is Apiokor. Today's show gets very intellectual, and I'll tell you why. But before then, don't forget that the show is sponsored by Tasty Tom. Mufa kakra na ye bebre. Frytol. We love it in our kitchens. It's a Ghanaian classic. Go find it. If you haven't tried it, are you even Ghanaian? And Fortune Rice, giving us quality rice for our jollof, our wache, you name the rice dishes, you can use Fortune Rice for it. And of course, Indomie, it tastes great. Now, back to my guest. He's bringing the knife skills, as sharp as his skills as an educator, and a seasoned one at that. So let's go for a break, and when we come back, I'll keep you in suspense for just a little longer, and then I will introduce him. Welcome back. It's still What's Cooking right here on your station of choice, CitiTv. And last I checked, my name is still Apiokor. Now it's time to get cooking. Now, if you're just joining us, I mentioned earlier that my guest today is, just by virtue of the fact that he's here, is going to make this episode a very intellectual one. And those of you who know me, you know I love having academic conversations, maybe a little too much. But before I introduce him once again, let me acknowledge our sponsors. Frytol, a staple in all Ghanaian homes. Some of the best vegetable oil money can buy, so please do use it. It's healthy, nutritious, everything you need in a vegetable oil. Frytol is it. Liquid gold, I call it. Fortune Rice, one of the rice brands that's doing it right on the market here in Ghana and on the African continent. And we've got Tasty Tom, Mufa kakra na ye bebre. And I know I nailed that tree. You've got to give it to me. A round of applause for me. And last but not the least, Indomie. Every child loves it, but so do the adults. Otherwise, they wouldn't be buying Indomie, by the roadside in their neighborhood in the corner. Yeah, so Indomie, it tastes great. Any way you make it, it's versatile. We love it. Now, let me introduce my guest. He is a seasoned educator. He's a very interesting gentleman. He bears my father's first name, so I sort of have a soft spot for him, but also for the institution that he runs as the rector. It's a university, a very popular one that has churned out many, many influential people over the years. His name is Professor Samuel Kwaku Bonso. The Kwaku is important, not Kwaku Bonso, Kwaku Bonso, the whale, right? So I'm inviting Prof onto the set. I see he's already ready. He has his plantain.
I'm very ready.
But Prof, you're wearing GIMPA green with a green plantain.
Yes.
And I wore some green.
Yeah, thank you for matching.
My head. You're very welcome. It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Now we know you as an educator. What we didn't know was that you're a culinary artist.
Well, it's a matter of perspective. When I compare my skills to my wife's, then I don't even exist.
Don't claim. We like it.
But when I meet my friends, I'm a leader.
You can show off a bit. Love to hear it. Love to hear it. We're making a very simple meal. Seems very simple, but it has all the right nutrients, all the right proteins, and it's a heritage-rich classic, right? So we've got our ripe plantain, our apim. Yes.
Yeah, very simple.
For the uninitiated, when it comes to unripe plantain or plantain in general, the apim, the smaller ones, the smaller varieties, even though we have different ones, the ones with the seeds, the ones without, and then we have that one we use it to pound fufu.
Yeah.
So we don't use apim to pound fufu.
No.
Traditionally, we don't. Then we have mangoes.
The dessert.
That's the dessert. Okay.
Me as Antony, I don't normally eat dessert. But
if it's a fruit, you can manage.
I'll try.
We have avocado as well, or AKA paya.
Paya.
This is payanku.
Yeah. It goes with the apim. Wonderful. When it is cooked.
And I like, look, he's already started. He doesn't even want to waste time.
I don't want to.
He doesn't want to waste time.
Yeah.
And then we have red onions as well, some tomatoes, Scotch bonnet peppers, which now has become the next generation of paposhito on our market. We have some sardines canned in oil, and then some eggs, and then of course the almighty Kobe. You can't do without it. Yeah. So you have all our ingredients and some salt as well. Yeah. Very simple meal.
Very
simple. So what are you making?
Well, as you say, very simple meal. Just cooking a few fingers of apim, and then I'll just, I don't know how you say that in English.
No, it's fine. You can say it's fine.
I put on makoni in toast, and then we'll just have some eggs to cook with the apim, and then we'll add the avocado, and it's ready.
It sounds like
very simple, very healthy.
Wonderful. So let me get our aprons.
Okay, I'm already.
You there? So don't worry, I'll help you. All right. So while you're doing the plantain, let me wash my hands so that I can be of help to you.
You'll catch up with me on hand washing.
Yes. Exactly. You did all that already.
I was ready before you came.
Oh, long before. Long before. Okay. But how did you learn how to make this meal?
Oh, I grew up.
Because this is a very traditional meal.
Yes.
Simple as it is.
I grew up in a. Well, many people already know that I was born at Ashtown in Kumasi.
Okay.
And Ashtown boy.
I see.
Very proud of it. I always say Maya Santini, and I'm very proud of that.
As you should be.
I have no doubt.
As you should be.
There are no questions in my mind as to who I am.
As you should be.
So I grew up in a family that did not restrict certain activities to just the women. So cooking was not really an issue that was or a consideration only for women. We were also supposed to support. So there were various activities that our parents, my mother in particular, would let us engage in. And this was it. Sometimes when she was cooking, she would call for us to come in and help. And we did a few things. When she's busy, you can't say that because you are a guy. You can't do it.
The way a Bema see. You don't touch the kitchen.
No. We spent a lot of time
the kitchen doesn't see observing.
Some of us, the kitchen actually saw all of us, not just our shadows.
Just your shadows.
The whole body plus shadow. So it was a good lesson that, and I don't regret it. Actually, I think, as some people say, she did us good.
She did.
By allowing us to be exposed to some of these things.
She did, bless her.
Yeah.
But I find it interesting, and let me help you, Clara, while I'm doing this.
Okay.
More and more, as I have conversations with men, and especially men who, not just me, but society, our viewers would consider to be men who have achieved success. When you have conversations with men like you, you tell us that, when you were growing up, either your mothers or your fathers or an auntie or someone made you understand that the lines of who should do what in terms of gender roles don't necessarily have to be defined by whether you're a male or a female.
No.
And I find that very interesting. Do you think that kind of upbringing, even moving away from the kitchen, that kind of upbringing has also helped you to get to where you are?
Absolutely. You have an appreciation for people as being human. And it's not a question of male or female.
You're a human
The person
being.
is human, and that's all that matters. And that was, I've said this in several places too, that was another thing that my mother used to tell me, that when you meet somebody, the first thing you have to conclude in your mind about the person is that this is a human being just like I am. And so whatever the situation is, it could have been you. And if you start assessing the situation from that perspective, you have a very different view on how to manage that situation. But if you start thinking of it's a male, it's a female, is that or this person, then you are biased. And so I've tried to live by that principle, for as long as I can remember. It was a very common thing at home to see people as people and not as anything other than being a person.
Yeah. Wonderful. See, I told you this was an intellectual episode, but Prof, I'm happy you said this. I am proudly so feminist. Now, there have been lots of conversations around that tag and what it means, and I do acknowledge that there have been lots of very extreme views.
Yeah.
But when you look at the history of feminism and the traditions that we have come from and the women we are learning and looking from and looking up to, it's always been simple. Women just want to be treated as human beings.
Exactly. And
so we advocate and fight for the situations that will allow us to live as human beings, make our own choices, have a career that you want to have, live where you want to live, without it being tied
to womanhood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
So
some
I'm
of my
happy you said this.
yeah, some of my friends think I'm a feminist.
But
and
what
I'm
you
okay.
described, you are.
I'm okay with
There
that
you
because
go.
I don't see
I was in
how
our camp.
I don't see how women should be different from men. I have a daughter, and obviously I have encouraged her to feel like, you know, think that anything that a man can do, she could probably do better. Maybe we went too far in raising her because now she thinks she can do better than everybody. You know.
Well,
but that's okay. It's all, you set ambitions very high and then you work with it. So I don't mind being tagged a feminist. I believe that women have the right to anything as much as, you know, men do. Yeah, so that's not a problem for me at all.
Lovely to hear that.
Yeah.
So are we doing any more plantain?
It depends on how many people are going to.
Let me be honest with you. Me, I don't eat a lot. I'm sure you don't either. But I have a very pesky neighbor who tends to pop up when the food is ready.
That one.
Come and want the food.
No.
And you're the rector of
GIMPA.
GIMPA. GIMPA
So
is
they tell me.
So they tell you. You wake up every morning, you have to remind yourself that they said it so.
Yes,
So it is so.
It must be.
You know, but how did you get there? What was the journey like? You're a professor of, what's your discipline of expertise?
Marketing and responsible business.
And responsible business. Oh,
yes.
Marketing and responsible business.
So I like to think I'm an environmentalist too.
Yeah, so I was about to, in the era of climate change, people like you are critical to the conversation.
I hope so. I hope so. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
No, but how did you get here? I mean, I'm sure you didn't wake up at from the time you started preschool or entered and then you said, oh, I want to
be the rector of GIMPA.
No. So how did we get here?
Okay, it's a long story, and we would have heard about it in various ways and forms. But as I said, I was born in Ashtown not too long ago, almost 60 years ago. Don't be deceived by my good looks.
You don't. Yeah, no. I must say,
I'm an old man.
Very good-looking gentleman. With all due respect to your missus.
Thank you.
You know, you don't look your age.
I'm sure.
But if you're eating these things, then it makes sense.
She may be surprised to hear that. that I'm a.
That you're good-looking.
I'm a good-looking man. She doesn't believe that.
I'm sure she believes it. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't have stayed this long.
Well, yeah. You know, we've come a long way. And so I went to school at St. Anne's International, Ashtown, an Anglican school, ECM. And then from there, I went to Cambridge International School, which was at Kwadaso at the time. They moved to South Centreso at some point after I left the school. So I went to Canada after that. So as I said, I went to tech in planning. And I did quite well in the year and a half, a year that I was there. And then I went to Canada, got a degree in business administration.
Okay, which school were you in?
University of Prince Edward Island in Canada.
It's one of my favorite places.
Beautiful place.
Because there are some books that I love to read that were set there. Yes.
Oh,
the Anne series, Anne of Green Gables.
Anne of Green Gables.
I grew up watching it and reading.
Yeah,
you know, Lucy Maud
Montgomery.
Yes.
Yeah, she's an icon there.
She must be. She should be.
She is. There are places that are designed just for her.
She should be.
And then I went to, from there, what do they call it? Well, it's not hustle because I wasn't really hustling. I spent some time in London for a few months.
Okay.
And then I went back to Canada to get a degree.
But what was happening in London? Was it just a change of environment, or was there an opportunity that took you there?
No, it was just hanging out with
your boys.
Yes, it was a hanging out. It was
a hanging out period.
Yeah.
And then you worked small and.
It wasn't really. I didn't really do it much, you know. So, but I went back to school. I went back to Canada. Okay. I went to Simon Fraser University.
Okay.
And then got an MBA, and in the course of that, a whole lot of things happened. I went to different parts of the world exploring. I went to.
Sorry, I will come back to this. Please hold that thought. But we have some water on our plantain.
Yes. Oh, I've left you to do the work.
So are we adding salt or? This is the way you do it. So
normally, I don't put salt in my food.
Okay.
Yes. For about 20 years now, I don't put salt in my food.
It explains the look. So I hope the young men are learning. People, you should learn. When you see the zaddies and they are competing with you, you are annoyed, but they take care of themselves. Okay, so no salt.
No salt.
Okay, so
but when I go out to eat, I don't worry about salt. I eat.
We want to do it the way you do it.
Yeah, so this is fine.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, this should be okay.
Enough
so
water?
We can get it. Yes. Okay.
Yes. So okay. So you're chopping onions now.
I'm chopping onions now that I'm going to.
Okay. So this is for the meko.
Yes.
The pepper that we are grinding.
And maybe trimako.
Yeah. But you see, now I can see the mathematician in you.
Oh, you do?
You're very calculated in how you're slicing these onions.
I missed that part.
It's almost like you want them to be the same size to scale.
It was spontaneous, though.
And you have calculated the fraction of each slice and how many little leaves
how many pieces.
Yes.
I didn't think of that. Maybe that comes naturally.
Yes, it's deep down.
So my mathematical mind or my mathematical sense is giving me up here.
It's there,
it's portraying my biases for mathematics.
I can see it. But yes, that's coming. So you ended up in the UK. So from Canada.
Yeah. So I went back to Canada.
Yes.
And got a degree in an MBA, as I said, from Simon Fraser University.
Okay. So the MBA was in?
In marketing.
In marketing.
Also
okay,
focus in marketing. Yeah.
On marketing.
Yeah. And then I went to do some work. I worked a bit. Okay. I worked for a company that was then called. I worked for an IBM subsidiary first. And then I worked for Canada, Statistics Canada, which is the statistical department of Canada. And then I worked for
Canada's version of our Ghana
Statistical Services. Then I worked for Canadian Airlines, which was sometimes I say they paid us too much.
So let's pause. Let's pause here. And at this point, you couldn't have been more, let's say even more than 30 years old, or you'd have hit 30 by then.
Let me check.
Do the calculations.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
No.
I wasn't.
I mean, if we're doing the calculation, right, from my estimation.
Yeah, no, because when I started I was 29 when I started my PhD, and all these happened before I went to study.
So my PhD. I'm asking this question because in such a short time, you had done so much, and you had worked in so many different industries already, experienced so many different cultures. How did you gain access to some of those opportunities? Was it just you saying, okay, you know what, I'm walking into this space and I'm claiming whatever comes my way? Or
that's
were
part
you
of it.
A little bit more of the planner, where you had a plan and you tried to make the plan come to fruition? How did it work?
Well, let me start with when I was even younger. I knew I wanted to get a PhD when I was in 72.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a baby. I'll tell you what happened, and I hope my uncle is listening. He came back from the US with a PhD, and I saw how my mother and my other mothers, in Asante, we don't have... Your mother's sisters are your mothers.
Of course.
They are not your aunties. So I saw how they were treating him, and I told myself...
Like a king, like as if it was Asante Hene who had descended.
Precisely. And I told myself, whatever he has, I should get. So it was later that once I understood what that was, that I realized that it was the PhD that he got. Because my grandmother would tell me that he had gone to study to the point where there was nothing else he could study. He studied everything there was to know.
I can imagine how she was saying it in Twi.
Oh, yeah.
Say it in Twi.
Or say, "Wasua dear sa." She say, "Wasua dear be kura enye." It I'm sure when you mean sa na me so pese me mesua dear pa se be ya. Me so mesua bibia enhia se mesua bibi fufuro bi abi. And so that was when I knew I wanted to get a PhD. I'm the calculating type. I like to have things planned to some degree, and then, but I also allow room for variations. So a plan is a plan.
That's why you don't lose your mind.
A plan is a plan, but
now the marketer is speaking.
If you don't have a plan, you really don't know where you're going.
Let's pause here. Beautiful conversations with Professor Samuel Kwaku Bonso. He's director of GIMPA, very, very prestigious institution here in Ghana. It's an honor to have him here for this very intellectual episode. We'll be right back. We're going for a break. We're back. It's still What's Cooking right here on CitiTv. My name is Apiokor and I am your hostess. Our guest on the show today is Professor Samuel Kwaku Bonso, the rector of GIMPA, very prestigious institution, higher level learning institution here in Ghana. And we've been having some very interesting conversations, understanding how he moved from point A as a little child who knew he wanted a PhD all the way to who he is now. We're somewhere in between in the story. I'll pick that up later. But I want us to focus on the food for a little bit. So we're making some apim, we're boiling the plantain, and it's a very simple dish. We're not cooking any stew, nothing.
No.
What we've done, or what Prof, me, I didn't do it, Prof did it. So he's grinded some hot peppers, Scotch bonnet peppers, some onions, and we're using red onions, and then tomatoes. That's where we are now. We haven't added salt to it. We're not adding salt.
No.
Because Prof doesn't do salt in his food. For 20 years he has, and I find it so remarkable. However, there's Kobe.
Yes.
Which will give us a bit of a kick.
But before we do that, I think
okay, so we need to remove the plantain for the fire. Okay. So we've been boiling the plantain.
Yes.
We also added, I'm sure you saw that, some eggs. Okay, so we're hard boiling them. It has to go with the meal. Okay.
And then we'll put hot water in. Sorry, cold water.
Okay, so why is it that we're not pouring the hot water out of the pot?
I wanted to song.
What is song?
Me pese song. Okay. The English.
So basically, we want it to be firm. We don't want the plantain to be mushy. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and it gives it a very different taste compared to
that's
if you haven't. Yeah, so whenever I cook plantains of any kind, I always make sure that I put in I put the hot water, the cold water in before pouring it out.
So does it have to do with the plantain experiencing the transition in temperature? So it's hot, it becomes warm as you're adding the cold water, lukewarm, and then it cools?
Well, I think in part it stops it from cooking instantly.
Stops it from cooking, okay.
So because sometimes when you take food off the fire, it is still
even after you poured the hot water away.
Yeah, so I'm sure the physicists can explain it to us, but
makes sense.
So now
so we're there. A little more.
Still, then we can leave it actually.
Okay, we can leave it.
Yeah, we can leave
just
it.
Sit in there.
This thing is not done.
All right. So our eggs are there.
Yeah. Now we need to.
Okay. So our Kobe. So I have a bowl here.
Normally, I would have put this in water overnight to drain out the salt.
Okay.
But we don't have overnight here.
But
I can go. I can come back tomorrow.
You're very welcome. We will not suck you when you appear.
So we'll clean it up a bit. We'll clean up the.
So this is Kobe for the uninitiated.
Yes.
Or those who are not familiar with Ghanaian cuisine.
Salted pig tilapia.
Salted pig tilapia, right? And the salting of it is a way of preservation. It's a time-old tradition, in our Ghanaian kitchens. Kobe goes with a lot of things. It's very special.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can see the salt in there.
Yeah.
The rock salt, what we call adangu. That, stuff it in there. Maybe one of these days on What's Cooking, we need to go and see the process of
how
the
they
preparation
salt
of Kobe. Yeah.
They cut it somewhere.
Okay, over there. Hey, you know the anatomy of Kobe.
Well, they usually cut it just below the head to put in the salt. And then they leave it.
So how much time do we need for the Kobe to?
5,
not
10
that much
minutes.
time. It's actually a very quick meal.
Yeah, it's very quick.
Okay, so what are we doing next?
So now we are getting this ready for the eating.
For the eating.
So we would just get a little bit, a few
sardines. Okay, so we need something to. Can we use this? Is it possible?
Put it in my mouth.
Okay. Let me get
Let's try
spoon.
a spoon or fork.
Okay. Which would you
Perhaps
prefer?
it
Spoon?
doesn't matter.
Okay, so let me
Yeah.
rinse this off a bit.
Because it's just to get the.
Okay, so these are sardines.
Yes.
That are normal canned or tin sardines.
Yes.
The ones we eat with kinky
Uh-huh.
or with anwamo,
It's the same thing.
or we put in our indomie. The same thing.
Hey, you put this in Indomie.
You know, when you go
The
to the
things I don't know.
indomie seller
Uh,
in the evening around 7 p.m., you want to buy indomie, and you say, "Auntie Mfatro, fully loaded," no, then you should know that sardines are going to be a part of
I
the
see.
package.
Fully loaded.
Sardines, corned beef, sometimes baked beans, crab.
Obi oho na opese ne die na
I tell you.
Nice.
I tell you.
So the ango be pity
You know,
me, but I'm going to
You want
pass
to
on
did
that
it good.
one.
Did it good.
Did it
Uh-huh.
good. So I'm washing the avocado.
Okay.
Wait. Yeah, Ashton, your friend or pay.
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 And this one
Or
I can hear the seed
So it means
rumbling in there.
It means that's ripe and ready
It's
for
ready
action.
to go. Ready for action. A very simple process. So no one is a mechanic. No, maybe asa. When you who's that? Until more huna mono. I have a yikakra.
But look at how you're cutting it.
May you never.
That's some serious skill in one.
Oh really?
Look, I don't. No, you have to slow motion that.
So really, this is it.
Okay. Are we doing anything special with the mangoes, or we are really just slicing them and dicing them and eating them?
So we're pretty much done.
We are. So while we wait for our Kobe, which should be done shortly,
Yes.
let me just ask you one question before we go on our break and then come back and eat, which is very important. I mean, along your journey, so you, like I said, did so many different
somewhere.
things. Yes,
Yeah.
you did. Did so many different things. Ended up at the University of Rhode Island, and then, you know,
And
later
from there,
on.
After the PhD, I went to I went back to Simon Fraser for a short teaching contract.
So this is back in Canada.
Back in Canada. Then we went to the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. That was my first real job.
So you were really just swinging between Canada and the US,
that
the UK once in a while, Canada. You're like you were just owning and bossing the whole North American continent.
Why not? You know, the opportunity came and I took
this
it.
guy from Ashtown.
The Ashtown boy in action. You know, so North Carolina for some time, and then I was invited by the Schulich School of Business in Toronto to join them. In fact, that was not even, I didn't think I'd go back to Canada. My family liked it in Canada better than in the US. So when the opportunity came and they invited me, I went through the process and I joined them. And I was there for 13 years before coming back to Ghana. It's about 13, it'll be 13 years in August since we came back.
Amazing.
Yes, so
amazing.
We went through all that.
So you came back in 2011,
yes.
thereabout.
Yeah, you know, so along the way, you know, part of an academic's job is to do research, publish in top-tier journals, make an impact. And
Absolutely.
I think I did quite well. You know, I was at the top of my game when we came back. Honestly, people ask, I had no reason to come back. That was the time.
And that's a question that I'll be
shouldn't
asking
have come
you
back.
when we sit down to eat. Because I don't want to start that conversation and then we have to go for a break. But especially in this time where everybody did jackpot, you know, everybody is leaving, young intellectuals who have qualifications. I mean, it's like the brain drain all over again, you know. I would like to find out why you came back, especially considering the fact that, as you described, at the point when you did come back, you really had no reason.
I was at the top of my game.
You had it made, as some people would say, you know, and you couldn't have guaranteed that Ghana would have given you anything much better. But you still came.
I did.
So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that.
Yesterday, just before we go, yesterday I was talking to a colleague in Canada, well, somebody at my former school, and we were having this conversation, and he said, well, so what happened? I
So
said,
what
well,
happened?
yeah, what happened in terms of why did you leave? I said, well, I gave up all the money and the luxury and came back to Ghana because for love of country. Yeah, and he just said, I wouldn't give up that luxury for anything.
Pro patria et
But,
deo.
yeah,
For
absolutely.
God and country.
Yeah. So we are about ready. You see, my
Okay.
stuff is attracting.
All right, so hang on.
Yeah.
Let's go for a break. Let's go
sure.
for a break because this, this process, this point of the process is very sanctimonious.
I see.
It's very sacred. So let's go for a break. This is Still What's Cooking. When we come back, we sit, we eat, we dine, and we continue our conversations with Professor Samuel Kwaku Bonso, Rector of GIMPA. We'll be right back. We're back and it's time to eat here on What's Cooking. My guest today is Professor Samuel Kwaku Bonso, the rector of GIMPA. Very, very big university in Ghanaian pounds, a big university, as we say at City as well, where, where they're doing very big things. And we'll be talking about some of those big things very shortly. But don't forget that this show is sponsored by Tasty Tom. Ufakakra, na ye bebre, Indomie, tastes great. Fortune Rice, an amazing rice brand that you should be using in your home. And of course, Fritol, which is a part of, it's more or less a Ghanaian ingredient, if you
now.
think about it. It's been around for so long, keeping Ghanaian homes and kitchens afloat. Prof, we've had great conversations.
Yes.
And now it's time to eat. So,
I've been waiting for this moment.
yes. So we've washed our hands, all right.
Yeah.
We have a very big Asanka Potoriwa,
Yeah, it's very big.
Regardless of what your language is.
I could get lost in it.
Earthenware bowl is the closest we'll get to an English translation.
Where do you dessert?
Okay.
Where you not?
All right, so that's also a big part of this. Okay. So while we're prepping it, let's. Or let me just remind you as well, you made, especially if you are just joining us. We're in a hurry to eat, so anyway, I'll let you know. So we have apim, which is essentially boiled unripe plantain. And we have different varieties of plantain. Apim tends to be smaller, slimmer, and it's what we use for a meal like this. If you want to pound fufu or even have ripe plantain that you use for kile with it, you usually don't use apim. You use the bigger ones, okay? And even apim too. And even the apim has different varieties. This one has the seeds in it.
Onyaba.
The others that don't have it. And then we have kobe. And the kobe, we didn't cut it. We tried to desalt it to some extent. Boiled it. As we boiled our eggs, there's some grinded pepper in there. And then we also have sardines. Our tin sardine that we love and eat with our kinke and many other things. Like I said, Indomie. Prof, we have to initiate Prof.
I'll try it.
So we also have our painku, avocados, ripe avocado.
Ashtown pear.
Ashtown pear. Well, Prof, let's have some more conversation. So you are at GIMPA.
But can we eat as we
no,
talk?
we can. Yes, of course. Because
that's important.
We must. It's very necessary. So you're at GIMPA, as the rector. No mean position to hold.
Yeah, thank you.
What's it like, and what are some of the things? How long have you held the office now?
This is my third year.
Okay.
So I took office in September 2021.
And the plantain is
Asunson,
different kind of plantain.
Yes. So You know, GIMPA is the only public university that does not receive any money from the government.
Oh.
So we rely on our own devices. And so that is one challenge, always having to find the resources to, financial resources to support us.
And it can't come from just tuition fees. It's not practical.
We need to be very creative. So we are an entrepreneurial university by every way you look at it, by any measure, because we have to be in order to survive. Some of the challenges we face, apart from the financial challenges, is, well, let me put it this way. Change is always a very difficult thing. And there are things that we have done for a long time, in some cases from the 1960s, in some other cases since Professor Adai left, or when he introduced them.
The legendary.
The legendary. And so, after so many years, 20 years or so, it's about time that we look at a different way of looking at things. And the difficulty with that is people are usually, I like to use the word, married to certain ways of doing things. So when you try to change anything, there is immediate resistance. But hopefully, after some time, people will realize the usefulness of it. You know,
let's talk about some of those changes that you are faced with now, and that you know you're trying to convince people to accept. And I'm saying that it's important to talk about this because GIMPA is a national treasure. As I said earlier in the show, many people of repute have passed through the Green Hill, as we call it, right? And as students, as faculty, as members of the administration, we owe it to Ghana to make sure that GIMPA works.
What's cooking?
I told you today I was ready for you and I knew you would come. The only thing is that we don't have any plates for you.
Yeah, I have to do this quickly before he gets here.
No, with this Jerusalem Asanka.
What is that, Jerusalem?
All you can do is Potogum Shwegum.
Yeah.
And so I'll join hands.
Jerusalem Asanka?
Yes, Jerusalem.
But have you washed your hands?
You see,
He washed his hand yesterday waiting for
with
this.
all these accoutrements, I overheard the meal being cooked today to be localized. So I washed my hands. Very well. Very, very well. So don't worry. We will not contaminate
we are
the
safe.
food. Yes, you are safe. You are safe. So can I start while you talk?
Yes.
It's Prof who invites you because me here.
Oh, you are invited.
I will not.
Thank you.
If it's up to me, then you are
Maybe
invited.
I should put some of the
No, I can be in the middle if you don't want, you want me to.
I don't want you to be in the middle. No, I do not.
Why?
You interrupt our conversation.
Okay.
Okay, come.
No, you'll be there. You'll be there.
Come to the middle.
Just make sure you put some slices here.
We can put some here
Yes,
for you.
Put some there.
In fact, we can have everything in here.
Thank you. Then now you remove the abrofosem and let's do Ghanaians. Nice.
Well, go ahead.
Prof,
Thank you.
please.
You're all invited.
Yes.
Back to my passion. Because what I want to say to him, it may not be very polite on camera. Now I want to say it in Ghana.
Before you say it, let me respond to your question before you say anything. You know, we used to waste a lot of paper, and in this 21st century, there is no need to have that kind of paper system.
And all.
So we started a process of digitization, and that was a very difficult thing to do because people were so used to paper. But I think over the last 2 years, it's a settled matter now.
Okay.
You know, that people have come to accept that digitization is the order of the day. If we want to be part of a global economy, a global system, then we have to accept things like that. That has been one thing. One thing that we are also looking at doing is to introduce, Openi, go ahead,
Yes.
have fun.
Yes.
I'm having a lot of fun
One
here.
thing that baffles me is like the respect they always give this gate crasher.
you know.
Please go on.
It's a global gate crusher.
Oh my gosh. Prof, please.
So we've introduced a new performance assessment system, a KPI-based approach to assessing performance. There's been some resistance to that, but it is happening, and it is going to happen, and it is going to happen, and it must happen, because we can't be hiring people without knowing what they are coming to do.
Absolutely not.
Yes, and especially for an institution like us, that has to generate its own money. The person has to be productive enough and be seen to be contributing to the productivity of the institute to merit any kind of financial consideration. It's happening, and it will happen. GIMPA has one of the most generous maternity leave policy. So, and here perhaps it speaks to this idea of feminist ideals that a woman should not be penalized for going home to have a baby or taking time off to have a baby. So with us,
growing the population.
yes, in fact, that's the only way we are all here. So for us, you could be out of the place for 2 years and come back to your job.
Oh, then this
And you are paid for...
paternity leave too must come.
there is paternity leave, but it's not as generous. You're not the one who has to do the 9-month thing. So the stress is from the 9 months. It has its benefits, you know, and that is one of those.
Because I mean, the medical professionals will tell us that largely it takes about 2 years for a woman to get
recover.
back. Yeah,
Yeah.
mentally, physically, emotionally.
Yeah. So we allow up to 2 years, but we'll
that's
pay.
extremely
Yeah, I
generous.
think we pay up to 1 year,
Wow.
and then the other ones will give you a leave of absence.
Wow.
And we keep your job for you, so you can come back to.
So
your
do you
job.
have, in that case, you have to request it if you want the full 2 years?
The 1 year is automatic.
Okay. So if you want
But
the,
if you want the second year, you request.
and I think that's
If you
fair.
want to stay, if you want to come back in 3 months, you can come back too. But that is a choice. You know you have the option to stay longer, and that is. We are harmonizing many of our programs, and we are building our relationships across about our borders with African institutions that we've worked with in the past, with North American, European institutions. We are establishing new relationships. We are strengthening the ones that we have, and things are looking good.
So when you say strengthen the relationships, what does that mean? Are you, for example, partnering with some institutions to run some courses? Are you looking at shared funding opportunities? How does it work?
Okay, we are working with our partners to develop new ideas, new programs, new research opportunities, new grants. I'll give you one example. We are thinking of a program in the management of the arts that we hope to start in January. All things
That
being
makes
equal.
me very excited. And I must be a pioneer.
We look forward to having you. Now the food is making my mouth, my voice a little.
Like a duck.
But yeah, we've identified a challenge in the Ghanaian system where we don't really train people in the arts. We assume they know everything already.
Right.
But there are some basic things that are very important to know if you want to get into things like that.
Especially in the era where we are trying to define creative entrepreneurship, take our place in the
global
environment,
yeah.
creative economy and all that.
So we're partnering with York University for production, and then we're partnering with the University of California for the non-production part.
Okay.
So what we intend to do is a 15-month program. 4 months will be spent abroad in the practice of whatever choice the person made, production, talent management, and all that.
Okay, so this is what kind of production?
This is film.
Film, okay.
Film. So that is one
production.
side of it.
Wonderful.
Then there is the music. There is music production as well. And then, so we are looking at this from the interest that we have identified from the people that we've been talking to, and then partnering with these 2 universities. Another thing that we're trying to do also is to look at, we live in the 21st century. AI is becoming the big thing.
It has become.
Yeah, and there are so many opportunities that AI presents that we could take advantage of. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Where we have courses that are of interest to our partners abroad, they can take those courses when we offer them here. You know, by coming into our classrooms, so our virtual classrooms, not Zoom, not Meet or any of those ones, but real classrooms.
So setting up like a virtual space for the classrooms.
Yeah, so students will be in the classroom, and then the lecturer will be there, and then we may have satellite students joining. I've done this before myself at GIMPA. On my sabbatical, I was in Denmark, and I was teaching a course in globalization that was of interest to our local students, and they joined. And then when I was in Ghana, the students also in Denmark also joined from there. So the facilities, and this is in 2019, the facilities are already available. We just have to take advantage of them. So we're talking to several universities about that, where we'll be offering courses that are of relevance to them. They can join. They will be offering courses of relevance to us that we may not have the expertise, and our students will join. So this will allow us to broaden the scope of offerings, rather than say that we don't have the expertise and we don't have the faculty, therefore we're not offering those courses. You know, so these are some of the areas that we are looking at: talent development, faculty staff development, harmonization of courses, and then digitization.
Prof, say no more. You are letting out the secret of the school, because I'm coming. I don't want somebody to chop me first.
Somebody has already.
I've already chopped you.
Somebody whose kitchen you are in. So be careful what you say and how you respond. Other somebodies might also chop second and third. You know, so and this is just one of many things that we are trying to do. You know, we look forward to a very bright future for GIMPA.
No, it's good, because even the School of Performing Arts and things, I don't think we do management of talents and production management over there. I mean,
so we're churning out the talents. I mean, between University of Ghana, Tech, you know, from the visual arts, the performing arts, they're there. The literary arts, but arts management, arts business, we don't have. And I'm happy to hear that there's an element of entrepreneurship in there.
Yes.
Because as soon as you're an artist, you more or less
have to manage yourself.
Yeah. It starts from you before anybody else even joins you to support you. So
my former school has a program like that. So Shulek has a program in arts management. Okay. And it's part of the reason for the partnership, and also, you know, the design and support that they can provide. They have the latest equipment in all these areas that we're talking about. So when, as part of the program, a student goes to spend 3-4 months with them, hopefully they'll pick up these ideas and the skills that are the latest skills in the industry, and then they can come back and help our country develop.
That's the way it has to be.
Yeah.
Prof, your story is so inspiring. You know, we live in a time, this is my final question to you, we live in a time where a lot of people are leaving Ghana. Let's call a spade a spade.
Yeah, it is true.
Have serious economic challenges. Many of the youth are not inspired, and they don't see any hope in staying here in Ghana. So they jackpot as a borrower from our Nigerian brothers and sisters.
We'll see, yeah.
But why did you come back? And why are you still here 13 years on?
The simplest answer, quickest answer I can give you is love of country. Yeah. When, at the time I came back, I mean, anybody in our profession, in our subject area will know that I was a big name. You know, easily recognizable. My works were being quoted here and there.
I have Googled you, so I know.
Oh, you did? And then I decided to come to Ghana. Some of my friends there thought there was something wrong with my head. You know, because this is the time when you were going to be making a lot of money, getting a lot of recognition. But one of the questions that prompted me to make that final decision was the job I had. If I left in Canada, it wouldn't take them too long to find somebody to replace me. But if in Ghana I came and I held a similar job, it's not going to be very easy to find a replacement. And really, since I've been here, I've realized that is very difficult, that talent is very difficult to find here. You know, many people, as soon as they are ready, they head off to chase dead presidents.
Greener pastures.
They chase the dead presidents.
I told you.
You know, Lord Paper will say, the paper.
Yeah.
You know, but for me, it was the love of country. Maybe I was privileged enough to have gone abroad early enough that coming back when I did made sense. You know, younger people may not see it the same way, you know, but I believe that the prospects here are also very good. I remember Professor Nkufo, this was in 1999. Before he became president, he was campaigning in Toronto. Then in a conversation, he told me, I don't know if he remembers this, but he told me that, look, in Ghana, it's a lot easier to make $1 million than it is to make the same amount in North America. And I still believe that.
I believe it too.
I believe that. The difficulties here are the signposts to guide us into those places, you know, and that is where we are lacking. And sometimes we don't have the patience to wait. We rush too much. Somebody graduates from university today, he wants to have 5 houses, a Range Rover, and a Mercedes-Benz that will take his wife to the market and back. That's unrealistic.
It's true.
So if we are realistic, there is hope. Things will be
If we're
fine.
realistic, there's hope.
Yes.
Things will be fine.
Yes.
And we also have to learn.
Yes. A lot of learning, and
Lots of
the quick money schemes. None of them is actually quick money scheme.
I think the kind of innovation that you want to bring into the university are some of the things that will propel us in realizing those dreams. Because if it's tailor-made, you know that
It will work.
it will work.
Yeah.
It's part of the process,
Yeah.
and if you trust the process,
Yeah.
it will work. Okay, Taster General,
Yeah.
your verdict, because we have to wrap up
Yeah, the
here.
verdicto.
That's where our mango
I have
will
to
be.
taste
When
it
you say
again.
cut, then we'll have to
Again,
taste
Yes, I have to
I
taste
didn't
it
see
again.
you try the
it. After
Kobe.
all this tasting.
Yes. Yes.
It's very
Yes,
salty.
it is only-
It's Kobe supposed to be salty.
Yes, it's Kobe.
Kobe.
Kobe. Yes, Kobe is nice. The food is professorial. I nearly got choked because of the cereal. So please, we'll document it, put it in the library at GIMPA as a case study.
Oh, the case study.
Yes, if you want nutritious Ghanaian food.
Nutritious, professorial
Ghanaian food. Very soon you'll see it on the menu in our restaurants.
I see.
With Prof there. No?
If I Prof there,
Yes.
Prof Kobe.
Thank
Prof.
you.
Prof Kobe. Prof, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
today.
so much for having
been-
me.
I can't say it enough how much of an honor it's been to have you.
Thank you.
Having conversations with you. And you're really cool and really chill.
Yeah.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you for inspiring us.
Thank you.
We need more inspiration in these times, and I'm sure particularly the young people watching us will be inspired hearing you. Thank you.
Thank you for having
And
me.
thank you, GIMPA.
Oh.
You know, so you and then thank GIMPA
Yeah.
for allowing him to come through.
Yeah.
For sharing a piece of yourselves with us.
Thank you.
We've had a piece of the green hill here today.
Yes.
We're grateful.
Where beauty is second nature and second only to heaven.
And a special shout out to the Prempeh boys.
Hey, I'm out
Yes.
for seniors.
Love it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another fascinating and of course uplifting episode of What's Cooking. My name is Apiokor. Don't forget that we're sponsored by Indomie. It tastes great. Frytol, everybody needs it in their kitchen. Fortune rice, that too you should have in your pantry. And Tasty Tom, ufa kakra. Na ye bebre. My name is Apiokor once again. We'll see you next week.